Any additions or corrections to the agendas?
Yes, we have a couple of addendums. Under F, recommended actions, number one, your consent agenda. Approve editorial revision to minutes of December 12th, 2023 regular board meeting. Then number three, new business, consider acceptance of additional certified staff resignations. The recommendation is to accept the resignation submitted by Lincoln Elementary Title I teacher Kay Fabricus and Torrington Middle School math teacher Tony Scusa, both effective at the end of the 23-24 school year. And then letter I, consider approval of offering a half-time teaching contract. Recommendation, approve offering half-time teaching contract as a business education teacher at Southeast Schools to Glenn Koski for the remainder of the 23-24 school year, pending Wyoming certification.
Okay, we need to adopt the agenda with these additions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor of adopting the agenda as presented this evening, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Item carries. Letter C, introduction of 2024 student representatives to the Board of Trustees and administration of the oath of office. Okay. Okay. And if you guys will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support,
I do solemnly swear that I will support,
obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States
obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wyoming,
and the Constitution of the State of Wyoming,
that I have not knowingly violated any law related to my election
that I have not knowingly violated any law related to my election
or appointment,
or appointment,
or caused it to be done by others,
or caused it to be done by others,
and that I will discharge my duties of office with fidelity.
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, he used to, right?
Hello, everybody. My name is Mason Wilkes, and I'm a Platinum representative. So, kind of our topic for this board meeting is to introduce ourselves and share a goal we have as for our year in student rep. So, a big thing about my life is music. I'm a complete music nerd. I'm in 3 band classes and a choir class, so my day is pretty full of music. I also golf. I'm a golfer. Not very good, but I'm still whack it. So the thing about me is this past year I joined the handbook side. Pretty cool. My biggest goal this year, and it's kind of the same as last year, is to just so in my opinion, Pot River's kind of seen as the outsiders and we're not seen as equals. So I think my biggest goal is to just keep trying to unify us through district. And I think my first step to do that is just to help everybody know that we exist, because I still think that's a problem that a lot of people don't know. Pot River is even a thing in our school district. So I think that's the biggest thing I can start off with this year. Thank you. Thanks. My name is Bob Bremer. I'm the representative for Legal Fort Laramie High School and really middle school and elementary school, I guess. I'm a 3-sport athlete, so I wrestle, play football, and run track in the spring. So we're in the midst of wrestling season right now. My main goal being the elected representative of our school is to build rapport with all of you as well as our school board. Really just kind of keep the school as well as all of you guys and our school board just connected, make sure everybody's on the same page. Make sure everybody understands the going-ons and happenings here as well as in our school. And I'm super grateful that I got elected into this position.
Hello, I'm representative for Torrington High School. And a little bit about myself, I'm mainly a music kid. I'm in two of our bands and one of our choirs, and also in theater. And I'm also in student council and NHS. I enjoy being part of the school and I enjoy being part of our music programs. I think we're very successful. My biggest goal for being student representative is to really be the voice of the students and get our community out there. Just kind of being a leader in that. And then something great, 24, 25 here.
We'd like to welcome them. Anna Hartman, who is our representative from Southeast, has practice this evening, and so she was unable to attend, so we will swear her in at the February meeting, but really excited to work with these students. Also, students, for you to know that if there is a time period, if the board meeting goes a little bit long and you need to exit, you can feel free at any time. Thank you.
Okay, we will move down to letter D, information and proposals. This evening, we have a school presentation and artwork in the boardroom by Torrington High School.
Good evening, trustees. Thank you for having Torrington High School here this evening. I want to mention that what we have represented in our work is from our ELA classes, our science classes, our social study classes, art classes, and our thespian group. I'd also like to thank Team CHS. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for being my team. Next slide. My goals for this evening's presentation are to inform, educate, challenge, and lean into productive discomfort, make requests, and finally to ask questions. I'd like to open with a brief overview of what first and second order change is. First order change refers to any change that is only a minor tweak to what is already being done. First order change requires no new learning, is comfortable, and is reversible. It is a second order change that forces significant change, requires new learning, requires new ideas, adaptability, and is most uncomfortable for people. It is second order change that makes people say things like, humans don't like change. It is also second order change that is most needed to get Torrington High School, and I might suggest the district, to an evolved and high functioning place where all learners have opportunities to achieve. Next slide. Here is the Torrington High School's school improvement plan as given to WDE by me. The first goal is climate and culture. Expectations for conduct are clearly understood by all staff and students, and school staff have a built-in system to understand student behavior. The second goal is data-informed planning goal. The results of the data analysis are used to identify individual students in immediate need of academic and/or behavioral intervention and to inform school improvement planning. And the third goal is an instructional one. Leaders and staff work together to design and implement a high-quality, standards-aligned instructional program that results in high levels of achievement for all students. In the coming presentation, you will see how these goals are manifesting at THS. Next slide. To address the culture and climate goal at THS, I spent the first semester tackling first order change. The first image is of a trash can. Why? Because that trash can reminds me of my interview for this position. My impression from everyone was that the people, the staff, the community, and the students felt like THS had an image of being somehow less than, not enough, and the disposable school of Goshen County. When I first walked up to THS 10 months ago, that trash can was a faded maroon can with a sticker of Gunner the Trailblazer on it that was peeling off. It was the first impression I had of THS. The first thing I did upon arriving in July, a first order change, easy, to set the tone that THS will no longer feel like a faded trash can with a peeling sticker, was to get that can cleaned up with a new coat of black matte powder paint and remove the peeling sticker. THS deserved a better first impression. Next slide. The bus loop was an incongruous concrete space that had no defining lines for pedestrian traffic and was basically not safe. A place where vehicles could be anywhere. The bottom line, humans like signs and will generally follow them. easy first order solution. A simple solution was to get a crosswalk of lines created and a separating line between the sidewalk and the driving lane. Next slide. Then there is the famous, or rather infamous, pit. A relic from a time when this was a good idea. A red velvet-like carpet, sunken lounge area in a high school that has become a playground babysitter for 5-year-olds during really gym activities. Next slide. This level area is now Blazer Gallery. It will be outfitted with a classy gray carpet tile, new paint and trim, and an 8-foot rolling counter will grace this area for multi-purpose use. Thank you, Mr. Sides. Next slide. When school started, at least 3 skateboards were being carried by students from class to class. If you're a high school administrator, all you think is weapon, weapon, weapon. So the solution was a skateboard rack. Easy, first order change. This required some scrap metal, some matte black powder spray paint, and the manpower of the aid shop. Thank you, Mr. Grody. Next slide. THS has never had a staff lounge. Regardless of the stigma of a staff lounge, when done well, they are an important part of a culture of a team. It is a place for us to host potlucks, share goodies, or break bread. This small room on the first floor is not perfect, but at least we are now the Blazer Lounge. And yes, we still need a full-size refrigerator if anyone wants to donate one. Next slide. The waiting area of the TH office. When I got there, the THS office waiting area had overstuffed chairs and a water-damaged T painted on the wall. Stuffed chairs invite hanging out, not something a principal likes, and reduces the image of professional business that should be in a high school office. I asked Carol Watson if I could paint, and she said yes. And with the shuffling of chairs, the office now has a professional tone that also says, this is not a place for lingering and lounging. Next slide. In the coffee area behind the THS office, there once resided an archaic pop machine that on 2 occasions tried to burn the building down. After polling the staff on the efficacy of this machine, it was an easy choice to have it picked up by Torrington Beverage and use the existing fridge as an honor system source of pop. That money will be used to replenish the supply, and any extra money can be used for our staff Green Friday pledges, such as our potato and taco bars that have gained some favor. Next slide. With the plethora of bulletin boards around the school, it is easy to see what we needed to do to celebrate the accomplishments of our learners. This is our senior class, and with the goal of always helping everyone to imagine post-secondary readiness and success, the future plans of each learner are prominently posted next to their photo. Thanks to Mrs. Ogburn, Mrs. Schnoddy, Mrs. Moore, and Mrs. Carlson for putting this together, because that's the creativity of the elementary school principal, not me. Next slide. Upon my arrival, there were no U.S. flags in the classrooms, which was a problem since I declared we would be saying the pledge every school morning at 8 a.m. The day before school, Mrs. Moore was in South Bluff buying out Home Depot's existing supply of small U.S. yard flags. It took a few days to build the habit, but now we have it down pat as a school, and every morning at 8 a.m. we say the Pledge of Allegiance together. I try to insert some words of kindness. Remember to leave people better than you found them. And as well as the ever-present reminder that cell phones are to be tucked away. Next slide, please. Speaking of cell phones, I saved my most popular first order change for last. The very popular, I assure you, no cell phones between 7:45 and 3:50 p.m. in the buildings that are the DHS campus. It was annoying for everyone the first few weeks. And yes, there was pushback from students and parents, but you know what? It is really going to be okay. Like all things that are the right thing to do, even when they are hard, if you just stick it out, you get through it. Next slide. The THS counselors, Mrs. Ogburn and Mrs. Schnabby, were realigned this year to provide balance to the workload they both carry. Mrs. Ogburn has learners in 11th and 12th grade, and Mrs. Schnabby in 9th and 10th. This also distributes the workload of preparing for the state assessments of YTOP and the ACT. These are huge tasks requiring hours of preparation, communication with WDE, and planning the testing site. This alignment also gives the opportunity for more collaboration between the counselors because they now have to streamline the handoff between 10th and 11th grades. Both counselors were excited about the suggestions I gave them to align their work, as it more closely aligns with the actual work of a high school counselor and what they should be doing, which is focusing on secondary success and post-secondary readiness. If you have a student at THS, then you have already had or will have a one-on-one meeting with the counselor, your student, and you to go over the high school schedule and the planning and begin thinking about post-secondary readiness. This is a first for THS, and it's been very successful. Because of this work, it is the reason we were able to put together the senior bulletin board that is now greeting everyone in the foyer of THS. Next slide. Our instruction goal: leaders and staff work together to design and implement a high-quality, state-of-the-line instructional program that results in high levels of achievement for all students. Next slide. The rest of this presentation is focused on second order change, the things that require new learning, adaptability, thinking of new ways to solve problems, and are likely not reversible. Basically, when something is seen, it cannot be unseen. THS has a small academic achievement problem, as evidenced by our YTOP and ACT scores. With the current senior class having a composite ACT score of 16.8, which is one of the metrics used by WTE to rate our high school, we have some work to do. But what worries me more is how there's an absence of a learning culture at THS. The teachers are teaching their hearts out, and we shuffle students every 46 minutes through an 8-period day. Yet 44% of our graduating class is disqualified for earning our state scholarship, the Hathaway, because they could not score high enough on an ACT. As a staff, we are also aware that many of our learners read below grade level, are unwilling to write, and will not engage in intellectual discussions around the content. At THS, we believe everyone is a reading teacher, and we are all committed to improving literacy. We just need it to be organic and part of our high school curriculum. Next slide. Therefore, in an effort to create better habits of practice around reading, writing, and discussing, in semester 2, we are leveraging laser time, which is our flex period time between second and third periods, as a space for teachers to practice engaging learners in reading, writing, and speaking, and for learners to get comfortable with the expectation that they will read, they will write, and they will speak to each other about the content. When I asked some of our more academic seniors how many minutes a day they thought they spent reading at THS, the unfortunate consensus was somewhere around 10 cumulative minutes in an entire day. The research is overwhelmingly clear that sometimes, somewhere in the vicinity of 120 minutes a day spent reading is what moves achievement and literacy in a high school. What you are looking at in this slide is my Canvas dashboard. You can see that I have created 2 Canvas courses, one for the THS team to practice as adult learners to become better at navigating and creating in Canvas, while giving us a one-stop shopping space to share information. The other you see is Blazer Time. Next slide, please. When you click on the Blazer Time Canvas course as a learner, this is the view, of course, as a teacher. I wanted to show you what we're doing here to leverage Blazer Time. Every single week of our semester has been mapped out, and it includes the entire week and whether or not there is a Friday school. Next slide, please. At the top, you'll see a writing prompt. This was actually Mr. Catlin's idea to have an essay writing contest every week to get our learners engaged in writing. And we went to Domino's and they said they would donate half of the pieces for the semester, so that was a win. Obviously, our attempt here is just to motivate kids to try writing. So by embedding this in our Blazer Time Canvas course, I've actually got one submission already today from one of our more motivated seniors. Next slide, please. This one is an explanation. This is an example of what you would have saw as a learner in one of our last week's Blazer Times. And I want to explain why I'm asking our students to use ChatGPT, an artificial intelligence writing source. First of all, Newsela is the easy one. And if you're in education, you're pretty familiar with Newsela. I wanted our students to be able to access Newsela in a safe space where they could then practice the art of sitting in discourse with each other as peers. So we're doing that through Blazer Time and introducing all students, because what always happens is Newsella gets pushed on the English teachers, and that's not fair. Because if we're all reading teachers, then we're all practicing reading and showing our students that reading can happen and should happen, has to happen in every content area. The other one I wanted to tell you about, because I hear about it and they question what I'm doing, is introducing ChatGPT to our students, because the toothpaste, folks, is out of the tube. Artificial intelligence is here to stay, and it's going to only become more. So my goal here is to show our students how to use it, that it will make things up, because I've also attached Google Scholar to it, and we're going to have intentional learning prompts. Next slide, please. So let me show you an example. So in ChatGPT, these are the learning prompts I had as an assignment last week by class. The teachers were to group them by class and give students the opportunity to use ChatGPT. I tried every prompt first to make sure it threw what I wanted it to throw. And then it gave kids the opportunity about something that was relevant to them because of their grade level, then to have a conversation with their peers. Next slide, please. Finally, to wrap up our instructional goal, I want to show you the newly unfurled drones class by Mr. Shaneman. Our EWC president, Cause, has been very enthusiastic about supporting the drone technology and offering EWC course opportunities to our learners. Drone technology is opening entire new career opportunities. Drones for Amazon delivery, drones as cartographers, local map makers, drones for real estate, drones used by highway departments as safe ways to view roads impacted by weather, and much more. It is important that we continue to expand Torrington High School, the staff and the pathways, to provide all of our learners continued opportunities in a rapidly changing world. Next slide, please. Finally, the last school improvement goal, data-informed planning. The results of the data analysis are used to identify individual students who have immediate need of academic or behavioral intervention and to inform school improvement planning. Next slide. In July, I called together a small crew of THS staff to get the planning for Blazer Time underway as the first strategy to improve school culture and climate, thus Blazer bonding moving forward. Every Thursday at THS, a student group hosts an engaging assembly tied to a theme as a way to promote fun and safety in community. When I asked the group, what do they want THS to be? The collective response was this, and 6 months later, I think everyone still agrees. We want THS to be a safe place, a place for academic and emotional learning, a place for exposure and experience to new ideas, places, people, and events. We want our students to have next step confidence, and we want connection to our humanity. We want to be people who contribute to society. We as a staff want to foster future leaders, and we want all of us, staff and students, to find value in education and lifelong learning. Next slide, please. THS is a place where we are all like Ellis Island circa 1903. We welcome everyone. With no alternative school in our district, Torrington High School operates with the spirit of being a true public school. Everyone is welcome. Next slide. The problem is, the way we have been operating is only good for our first standard deviation of learners who fit under the bell curve. Of our approximately 330 learners, the way THS has been operating in true old school fashion is only good for about 68% of our learners. What I'm going to show you next will be hard to hear. But as Jim Collins said in the book Good to Great, we have to acknowledge the brutal facts. Next slide. There is approximately 32% of Torrington High School population that are categorically at risk. This means by definition they are kids from trauma, generational poverty, they may be cognitively challenged and not on track to graduate. The archetype of our most at risk is around 17 years old. Is male, is functionally illiterate, meaning low reading ability, low math ability, low writing and communication skills, comes from trauma, poverty, a single or no parent home, is being raised by a grandparent, or is homeless. The student has been or is in a system such as DFS probation or embedded placement. The student probably uses an IEP. The student has dropped out of high school at least once. And this student should be a junior or senior cohort that has only earned around 2 credits. Next slide. To date, this school year, 7 of these young people have re-enrolled in THS after being absent from formal schooling for extended periods of time or being dismissed from another Goshen County school. The problem has been, with their age and lack of earned credits, it's been almost impossible to create an on-time cohort of graduation for these learners. Even with their willingness to return to school, it won't take long for the same problems that made them leave school to resurface again. These kids come from generational poverty. They do not have a vision of what possibilities exist for them beyond Torrington and this high school. The idea of staying at the high school as a 19-year-old fifth-year senior is just not an option. There has been no system to fast-track credit recovery for these kids until now. This slide is a picture. Next slide, please. This slide is a picture of our new THS credit recovery system. This team has created 28 credit recovery courses, adding to their existing teaching workload from their own curriculum, the district's curriculum, and resources. And they will be monitoring these courses as an additional workload. As our pilot semester, this semester, is for credit recovery, we are focused on the core classes in 9th and 10th grades. And by request, Mr. Hawley asked for personal finance to help students, as it is a graduation requirement for the diplomas. And Mr. Gurney asked for an AIG Ed course as a way to help some of those learners who just missed earning a credit last semester recover that credit. Next slide. What you're seeing in this picture is our new system for delivering those credit recovery options inside the school day and during the school year. Mrs. Pierce serves as a half-time interventionist, a position that is being eliminated because of ESSER funding. The counselors created learning labs for her first, second, and third periods. Learners who are cohort juniors and seniors and severely credit deficient were given the first opportunity. Learners in any grade who failed 2 or more classes in semester 1 were second priority. Learners were enrolled in a learning lab, which serves as a space in their day where they are rostered to Power School, so there is accountability for showing up and taking attendance. And in this half credit period of the day for semester 2, learners with multiple courses to recover can make up as many credits as they are able. The return on investment for this use of time and teacher is extremely high. Because of this system, a student who enrolled just today in THS, who is a cohort junior and fits our archetype, will be able to graduate on time in May 2025 with a 20 credit diploma if he does everything lockstep. To achieve this, Mrs. Ogburn and Mrs. McGuire are also deploying the co-op option as a pathway. We'll talk more about the laws of co-op in a bit. Who you are seeing in this picture is our only THS fifth-year senior, a testimony to the fact that most of these kids give up, who, without this credit recovery lab and opportunity, would be looking at a 6th year at THS. Next slide, please. Here's a summary of our numbers of our credit recovery process, ostensibly making an alternative school within a school at THS. You can see that we have, as of right now, 112, not unique, but 112 enrollments in our credit recovery courses already. Next slide, please. As we move to the conclusion of this presentation, I wanted to ask the biggest question. How do I do what is asked of me without hurting kids? Next slide. It is undeniable in the research that not including parenting in the first 5 formative years, the biggest impact on a child's academic performance is the teacher. Next slide. I've been asked to cut a large amount of money from my THS salaries to help with balancing the budget. This is ostensibly a reduction in force, and I refer to our district policy 4119.13 for guidance to align with my conscience. In short, I don't know how to squeeze blood out of a turnip. All I hear from everyone is we want THS to be successful. But the facts I'm about to share indicate that will be an impossible task if we keep cutting from THS. Next slide. With the elimination of our ESSER-funded positions, the district will lose our position that manages our co-op, internships, coordinates college visits, our military recruiter visits, and college recruiter visits, Remember, co-op was key in ensuring that my today enrollee graduates on time. Next slide, please. Now I want you to meet my team. We are 32 certified staff. 27 of the 32 are either coaches, advisors, or both. These teachers attend learner activities and support them. Many accepted learner work from semester 1 of their own choosing over the holiday break and until the early afternoon last Friday. I did not ask them to do this. This is just who they are. They wanted to make sure those credits were earned. One teacher called a coach last week asking if the learner could be able to be late to practice and to send the learner to the teacher so that learner could finish semester 1 assessment in order to get the chemistry credit. All of the team are on board with our credit recovery process. The only thing they have ever asked of me is just more time to build the courses. Next slide. The work of this team has created potential future monetary savings for our district with the creation of original, district-owned, district curriculum credit recovery Canvas courses. Working with the resources we have, this team has coached a state championship football team, an internationally competitive thespian team, a national champion FFA team over and over, and a state recognized band and choir learners. And THS provides opportunities for the entire district's learners through shared resources. When it comes to having healthy relationships with kids, this team nails it. Over and over, I am a humbled witness to another moment where there is nothing they won't do for a kid. Next slide. And by the way, next slide. Because of the ESSER money going away, with no opportunity to fund these positions, it should be brought into the light the impact this will have on learners. There will no longer be internship, a 50-plus-year-old program. There will no longer be co-op opportunities for learners to earn credit through their after-school work. The future of FBLA is unknown. There will no longer be as many opportunities for post-secondary trips. One PE teacher, not two, means larger PE classes. Our health curriculum will have to be absorbed inside the PE courses, or not taught at all. THS is losing one position in the office, a nurse clerk, and our part-time interventionist. And our credit recovery, well, that also won't be able to happen during the school day or within the school year. Learners will have to wait until summer or the 20 Fridays. Next slide. So here is a recent reality, the vandalism. What you see here is chocolate milk thrown into one of our schools, and there's chocolate milk all over the floor. Next slide, please. Repeated scratching, locksmithing on the doors, and other scratches coming. So the custodians have been coming to me with these pictures, and it needs to be brought to the public's attention. Because of lack of manpower in my building, the only option I have for consequences for students is out of school suspension. Next slide, please. The credit recovery opportunity will be relegated, just to be reminded, only to the 20-plus Fridays in our school year and summer school. Graduation rates will continue to be low. There will be larger class sizes in the core, likely greater than 26 in rooms that have no space. There will be a reduction in the number of electives. Classes we provide for other schools may be lost. And natural attrition through retirement will save the money. But cuts to THS programs have to preserve the core classes as they are the pathways to graduation. Next slide, please. I won't read all the burning questions that I have as they are in your handout, but I do have them, and I'm hoping that this presentation will take us to another conversation, a larger conversation that seeks solutions that have some level of creativity to them. Because again, you can't squeeze blood out of a turnip. Next slide, please. So I leave you with this. What do we want for our kids? Because I don't know how to do what I'm being asked to do without hurting kids. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions?
Question on your statement on ESSER funds. That is going away from the funding from the school, and that has been talked about. And all those staff members are fully aware when they entered into those positions that there would be a possibility that they wouldn't exist.
That is correct.
And also those administrators in those positions knew that through this trial basis on this process, there was going to have to be other positions to insert there if those positions were to remain.
Is that a question, Mr. Kramer?
Yeah,
Yes, coming in July, I was given this information and yes, the separation of my conversation here was between the ESSER funds and the other ask. And I'm suggesting that there are creative solutions that as a district we may be able to find to solve some of these problems. Are there any other questions? Thank you.
one quick question. You had referenced, and I guess maybe that results in a little bit more explanation. You had said there was no alternative to education from Torrington High School,
There,
or there's no,
I said there is no alternative school option in the district.
I guess, are you now meaning Platte River School or the other two high schools, or what do you mean, I guess, there?
I've been told Platte River School is a small school of choice, not an alternative school. And they do have an interview process and they do have a cap on enrollment, so.
Right,
Right.
just like, but they have a process for accepting students in there.
Which we don't.
Right.
We're all about
Southeast and Lingo also do not.
I asked what creative solutions you're referring to. I mean, obviously you've got some ideas, I would assume.
yes, ma'am. I don't want to speak out of turn and assume that this is a THS only. Any solutions I would suggest or possibilities have would be things that as high schools in this district, we should be able to have discussions around how can we share a resource that would benefit us all. For example, credit recovery coming from districts aligned curriculum. So there should be a way that we can pull this together, because I can't be the only high school with students who need credit recovery, for example. So how do we get together in the conversation and come up with some solutions where maybe, yes, we still have to cut some positions. However, we can, because of some savings, we can create something that we can share. Another option is that there's a lot of value to that co-op and internships, the things that Christine McGuire's position does. It serves the entire district, and it's going away is going to be bad for kids. I could go on, but I don't think this is necessarily the forum. I just think it should be a big conversation.
Any other questions or discussion?
I got a question.
Yes, Mr. Hager.
Um, I was a community member that sat in on your interview team.
Yes.
And one of the main things that stuck with me through that whole process was, you said one of your goals was to show people you care before you tell them what you know.
Correct.
Would you shed any light on that, or you think is that?
Yes, Mr. Hager, I think that this presentation is a culmination of effort of this team. And that's why they're here tonight. This is our voice. These are things we're all concerned about. And this is the only opportunity we have as a collective to share our viewpoint. And the reality, everything I've said in here, if we can parse out whether or not PRS is an alternative school or small school choice, sure, whatever. Regardless, the facts of the impact are unequivocal. And it's not from my fictional imagination, it's a collective conversation I've had with my staff for the past 6 months. And I would say that we built this presentation together.
Yeah, I guess the only thing when it comes across to, as me, as a board member, we can't control ESSER.
I
It's
understand
kind of
that.
coming across that we have a choice on that and we don't.
We
So
can't.
we can have another choice after, if ESSER goes
Correct.
away, then we can come up with plan B.
Correct, and that's what I'm asking for, is then, let's start talking about plan B. When do we get to that conversation? That's my ask.
So it's automatically saying that all those positions are just gonna snap and go away isn't totally true. We haven't come up with plan B yet.
Actually, I delineated between the ESSER positions and the ask to cut my budget. And I talked about those things separately. So that it was clear that the impact that, regardless, I understand that the ESSER funding can't be controlled. I also believe that everybody deserves to have the impact of those positions being lost discussed in public. Because people have expectations of what we can do in this high school, and we won't be able to deliver on those expectations. So now, going forward, it's out in the light.
One more question, and possibly a statement, and I apologize if I interrupted on somebody. Just to clarify on when and looking at the model for each building, and making sure everybody's on the same page. There isn't the expectation that we're cutting programs at THS to have THS actually fall within the funding model for next year. Is that correct?
First of all, I wasn't given average daily membership and full-time equivalent conversation. I was giving a dollar amount based on the salary of my budget. So I'm operating off of that expectation. And I've never seen the funding model for THS. It's not been shared with me.
That was a document you received, Dr. Porter.
Okay, I apologize, Mr. Kramer. So regardless, we could have conversations about how districts are funded at an entire level. And then, yes, there's a funding model for the schools. I'm interested in seeing how we can find some solutions as a district for the expectations of Torrington High School.
Dr. Porter, are you under the impression that the expectations for THS are different than they are for the other two schools in the district? I feel like we're dancing around something here and I can't quite figure out what we're dancing around. Can you just cut to it?
I don't know, Mrs. Mueller. I don't know. I'm sitting back and I'm still watching. I'm operating off of the I'm operating off of my observations, and like our student said here, he has a sense that his school has some expectations or lack of them tied to it. And I think what I'm seeing is a district of schools that feels very siloed, and I'd really like to be part of a team where we are working more. What I'm seeing is it feels very siloed. I just don't leave it at that. And that's, I don't know how else to say that. I'm not dancing around anything except talking about the silos. And we're operating, it feels like, in vacuums. And I know we say we won't cut programs, but we have a policy that says we're going to do reduction in force. It's basically what it is. If you're saying, look at the salary, take your time but get it done. That's the number one thing that policy says is attrition. So based on natural movement, if someone takes a job somewhere else or retirement, I think we would look at who's closest to those spaces and then say, Yeah, looks like some programs might be impacted. Definite losses for learners. And there is no other way around it. So saying that we won't cut programs and then also saying, but these things have to be cut. They don't live in the same world because they are, well, they're absolutely intertwined. They are both sides of the coin.
You have an idea of how we should get together to have these discussions, or do you have a proposal or some sort of an idea as to how to further those discussions?
The first question I have is, what are the other high schools experiencing? What are their needs and what does their challenges look like in terms of having to balance the budget? And then let's get together for the whole day and throw ideas on a dry erase board and see how we could, yes, balance the budget and still create while we're doing that. What can be shared? We're already sending teachers from Torrington High School to Southeast and Little Fort Laramie, and we share staff at TMS. So we send kids, kids come from other schools to our building for things that their schools don't offer. So why are we stopping with that? There has to be more.
I guess from a board standpoint, I'm kind of just at a loss, like, are you asking us to help facilitate that, or?
No, I realize that you're a governing body and that's that your role. What I don't want to have happen is when I honor attrition naturally, and things in this high school are gone, nobody should be surprised. That's my goal for this evening. And I don't think anybody wants that because it hurts kids. So my hope is that this causes enough discomfort for everyone that we ask, is there something else we can do for all the high schools, for all the schools?
So. That, your goal tonight, by bringing it to the board meeting. Well, actually, it's supposed to be, yeah, it doesn't specify your school presentation. That was your goal, is to generate that uncomfortableness.
Yes, sir. I don't think that coming up here and making everyone feel good and then disemboweling THS in the coming year is fair to anyone.
So you found you did not see another avenue.
No, sir. I'm unaware of other avenues.
That's where I find, and again,
One thing I just want to actually clarify, and that's for district wide, because anytime that RIF policy is ever brought up in any conversation, that's a scary statement. And I can say that there is nothing coming from the business office nor the superintendent's office in regards to reduction in force at any of our buildings in Goshen County.
Well, and that's why this is so confusing, to be honest. I'm sitting here, I'm just completely lost. And I probably shouldn't admit that in public, but I'm completely lost as to what you were asking and what the goal was of your presentation. Because this board, we're here to help you if we can. I don't know what we've been asked to do. That I'm completely lost as to what you're asking us to do or what help you're asking from us.
So coming in from the outside, I've seen interesting action on the school board, such as the grading policy, and the level of specificity of it, to where my teachers are now bound inside of public school to operate at that level, with the weighted grades. And regardless, I'm just gonna say it's interesting. And I know that in every school district, operations are different. And I'm not sure what this school board can do to help. I know that you want to help, so I'm telling you what our problems are. Because to me, that's a very, when people ask me, how can I help you? I'm telling you, here's what we need. I don't know. We can do what is asked of us, and it will cause this domino effect. Because the school isn't just dollars, the school is humans. And when we let the dollars just dictate without the story, the human behind it, we don't really see the effect of what's happening. So that's what I'm asking. I'm presenting the questions I have when I am asked, how can we help you?
Yeah, I just have a hard time getting lined up with the problems that you think are coming, haven't came yet.
Correct, because we haven't done any of the second order change or any of the actions that have to get done and then to balance the budget. So far, the person
So
who looked at
you're
it,
kind of assuming that the problems don't have an answer.
no, sir. I know that if we go from 3, let's say science teachers to 2, I know that the core science classes are going to swell in size. I know that there will be less electives offered for kids. I know that the science teachers that remain will have to teach more classes. They're going to have to absorb the other required classes for graduation. These are facts.
Right, but those facts are based on the assumption that nothing's gonna happen in between this coming problem and a solution before that problem exists. Your facts are saying that we're just gonna jump right to the problem and there's gonna be nothing in between. You're jumping to the end of a maybe.
I have been asked to cut money from my budget. So, and not papers and copy machines at full-time equivalents. So that is what it is.
Is that true, Mr.?
I'm a little
Like, that's, I am
confused
just so
because,
lost.
So here's what we do with the administrators. Marcy and I sit down and have the model for every building and what it is equivalent for the student attendance or the student membership and where they align. We have some schools that have a larger amount that they are spending over the model and have been for a number of years. And then we have some that are underspending their model amount. And in that conversation with those buildings where they are exceeding the model, we talk about ways of when we get to a point of having a better alignment with the model, that is the goal. We also make clear that there is no expectation in cutting programs at this time. And stating very clearly, that may come to a point where we need to have that conversation, but that is not now. And if there is resignations from your building in regards to specific areas, and we have to take a look at whether we replace that position, if it actually is absolutely needed, we'll have that conversation where we might be able to have those funds. The only positions that are not in stone are those ESSER positions. And in those ESSER positions, just like when we started those 4 years ago, there was extensive conversation, board, building, administrator-wise, the employees that were hired for those positions knew there is a high probability that this position may not exist when ESSER funds are completed at the end of this school year. And so then with that, and within that practice, there's also the option for an administrator to say, you know what, these positions are irreplaceable. And let's look at a possibility of where we can fund those in a different avenue, either through a position that, you know what, we can have an exchange here that we have a resignation from a para position that might fund this other para position that was an ESSER fund position, and we can possibly move that funding.
And that's a point that I want to make sure that it is spoken to, because as we were talking about the ESSER funds, again, it was very clear that those positions at the end, again, they weren't going to be permanent, they're right. However, the comment was made and the discussion was had that if positions were found to be beneficial and need to continue to actually help our schools, that we would have those discussions. So at some point, I'm not sure exactly if you didn't get that piece of information, but again, those positions were identified as, okay, when the funds end, there may be some loss. However, if it can be shown that there has been positions that are needed to continue to actually help kids, we would discuss that.
Thank you, that's perfect.
And Mr. Kramer, can I ask, so when you're talking about these models and so forth, can I assume that THS was overspending? Oh, right, okay, thank you.
A quick point of clarification then, if the expectation is that budget to be cut, in what way can that be accomplished without touching staff?
So in regards to the model, we have to look at what we can kind of move and where that model places them. And so through attrition, that might be a possibility of where that might be something we have to support. High schools are very difficult, and even the size of the high schools are challenging, because we're able through our other two high schools where we are underspending the model. And so as a balance of the entire district right now, we are just slightly below where that model exists on expenditures. But collectively on buildings, there are some that have a large access over the model, and there are some that are underspending the model.
And I think it would be safe to say that the needs of the schools that are overspending are probably higher than our smaller schools. Maybe that's a big supposition.
Yeah, I don't know. if
But I
would
mean,
say that for sure.
The needs are different. So if you're looking at a balance across the board, doesn't that work? I mean, if our schools are underspending and overspending, but we still meet in the middle.
Yes, and the goal is to get as close as we possibly can. There may not ever be the case where we're exactly on the model. We have that realistic expectation, but when there is a significant overspending of the model, that's when we have to take some looks at where that is and have discussions on what is the reason that this has been there? What is the long-term plan for that building in regards to getting closer to the model? Because without just continued access of the legislative area of increasing the model, where do we get more aligned with what those needs are?
So in regards to the discussion of those needs, when and where does that take place? Is that a salary relations issue? Is that a building by building issue?
Combination of all, because it certainly is involving salary relations and how that impact has on the model. There's also the impact of student enrollment. And when there is an influx of students that might be delayed, like this freshman class right now. When we look at the size of the freshman class at THS and we look at where that model exists and where that number is, there could be the potential that that is an increase. And then we have some buildings that are declining enrollment at a faster pace. And that's going to have a long-term effect too on where they're at related to the model. Mhm.
Before you leave, I do want to say that there are some, you brought some very valuable information, and actually I want to say thank you to you all, right, for everything that you guys do. But I do want to say, right, when the time comes, we will have those conversations, but we do need to have the conversation right? It's dialogue. It's just not a big boom. We have to have dialogue.
Thank you. We will now move down to the public forum portion of our meeting this evening. Please keep in mind there's a 5-minute time limit. And we'll start with Jamie Malin.
Good evening. It's a hard act to follow, but my name is Jamie Malin. I'm a parent of 3 students at Southeast Junior High and High School. I'm also a 20-year educator. First, I want to thank board members and the new student representatives, for the time that they're giving to our district. It is a thankless job where you never please everyone, and that makes it especially difficult. I chose to speak tonight to bring attention to several things, so I'll be brief in mentioning them, in agenda order. First, I have no problem, no personal problem with Mr. Kramer specifically, but I would caution the board against approving a 2-year contract. A great deal can happen in 2 years, as we've seen in the past several. And I just feel it's unwise to extend a superintendent position that long and then you're committed to something for that extended time. Secondly, I'm highly concerned about the fact that Southeast High School has 5 certified openings next year, including a mid-year resignation. Sorry, I don't like public speaking. I would venture to guess that this has never happened in the history of Southeast schools. I don't know that for a fact, but that's my guess. We tend to keep teachers for many years, and this is extremely troubling as a parent. I believe that many of our district level policies could be applied to this. District grading policies, not holding students responsible, and the current design of the 4-day school week are all problematic right now. Finally, I look forward to hearing the results in the superintendent's report of the 4-day school week calendar survey. You may remember that I was against it last winter. I've tried very hard to get on board with it this year and to be supportive of it as a parent. I will give credit to Mr. Williams and Todd Warner, and I know many others have worked very hard to adjust and fix known issues that have come up, which I truly do greatly appreciate. The town hall meetings, I know Ms. Mueller was there, Mr. Kramer was there. That was a great opportunity and I appreciate that. However, still at this time, a semester in, it just seems to keep proving to me why it is not working. Students aren't getting regularly scheduled interventions when they need them. Teachers are trying to cram 5 days of teaching and learning into 4 days. Parents are trying to make plans for Friday school or transportation to activities when there's no school during a work day, or how to attend activities during a work day. And you have ball games at 9 o'clock on a Friday morning. That's an entire work day that you give up for that. And the community is struggling with their workforce needing to be home with their young kids on Fridays. I'm not sure that I personally know of any parents or teachers that are actually liking the new 4-day schedule. Most that I've talked to say they would rather go back to a 5-day, and the sooner the better. Ultimately, I do not believe that a 4-day school week is best practice for our kids, for our teachers, for parents, or for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Goulart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, trustees, and Mr. Kramer, thank you for your time. I get a unique privilege tonight, actually. Just a little background, there is a group of Christian men that meet regularly along the 26th corridor, right here where we live. And they concern themselves with a lot of things, but probably the number one thing they concern themselves with is shining the light of Christ. And they asked me to come here this evening and extend an invitation to all of you to be served by us. We would like to serve you breakfast on Friday morning I'm sorry, the morning of Friday, the 26th. At 6:30 a.m. There won't be any agenda items, there won't be any issues, it's just going to be breakfast, and we want to love on you guys a little bit. And it's that simple. So, we look forward to having all of you there. If you have any questions about it, I'll hang out for a little bit when everything is done. If you'd like to contact me, I'm not hard to get a hold of. I'll share that contact information with you. But thank you. We look forward to seeing you. Oh, and everybody in the sound of my voice, if you would like to join us, I've been told specifically, please share that with all of you, teachers, faculty, staff. If you'd like to join us, we would love to have you. We will have enough food. We'll make sure of that. But you all are the focus of our attention this time. We feel that that's where the light of Christ that need needs to be focused in on all of you, because we do understand that you've got a really difficult task. And even though we might not always agree, I think we all understand that we're better for having you. And that's what Christ calls us to do, is to come together. So thank you for that opportunity. I look forward to seeing you.
Thank you. Bob Peterson.
Okay. Thank you very much, board members, employees, students. Happy New Year. Almost a year ago, we had a new contract with this superintendent. The contract period was July of 2023 to June of 2025. The salary on that contract is $160,500. Now there's a proposed contract for the superintendent to run from July 2024 through June of 2026. There's kind of an overlapping of 24 and 25 in the contract. So are there two different contracts? Maybe you can explain that later on. Standard contracts for all contract signing employees is 1 year. And when we go to great lengths on these contracts, are we sending the wrong message to the rest of the staff for contract? Anyhow, I kind of think it's a curious that all this new contract is coming up when there's going to be 6 new board seats. It's a very curious, kind of surprising to me. Anyhow, the other things that I guess I was thinking about, the ERSA funds are gone in September 24, which we've all pretty well covered. So there's a big budget item, and there are going to be cuts. The other thing, charter schools are already in place. There will be more. There will be a bill this year on school of choice. It's being received very well. And it's very important to do that. I think you're going to see a lot more declining students when school of choice goes through, even though they've got some food limitations. And the other thing I would kind of keep in mind too, the taxes are being talked about a great deal. There's a statewide petition to reduce residential property taxes. And I was one of the certifiers. And I'm letting you know now that will probably make the ballot in 2024. You'll have all the preliminary numbers of the signatures required. It's around 30,000 signatures. This is statewide. We have over 400 volunteers processing these. The actual reduction to like the county is going to be $130,000. In 2022, they had excess of $966 million of excess property tax that was invested in China. That's after all the bills. Up to October 1st this year, the figure is $1.7 billion of excess property tax. So I imagine with this being an election year for both local, state, and national offices, we're going to see school choice go through. And then we're also going to have the right to vote for this property tax. And those will all be burdens for you in the school board. But the ERSA funds balloon the staff and spending, not just here in Goshen County, it's statewide. The rodeo is over. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Rebecca Cohen.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Coburn, and I would also like to address the agenda item under the new business letter A, considering a again, I have no personal beef with Mr. Kramer. I am not here to suggest any ill will or any reason why he should not be extended a contract, except to mention that, as Mr. Peterson said, there was a vote on this about this time last year, which raised quite a bit of interest in the community, and a special meeting was called, and at least one board member changed their vote to approve the contract. Now, that raises some questions to me. If we're bringing this back up, was that vote no good? Why are you voting on this again? If you voted to offer Mr. Kramer a contract back then, is that no good and you need to redo it? What other votes do we need to go back and revisit if that's the case? And should the votes come in nay to offer Mr. Kramer this contract, when a contract had previously been approved, it makes me wonder which one would then take precedence, the aye, or the nay, or do we have to have a third vote? I don't know, I'm confused. The other thing I would like to address is the 4-day school week calendar survey, which is very interesting. I would like to have participated in that survey. I don't know how that was distributed, or it's kind of news to me. So I would like to play a little game called Did You Know? Did you know that when my child at legal Fort Laramie goes in, he gets 2 hours of education, which is what we agreed to. And then he gets to go to a room where no electronics are allowed. None, not even the laptop that he needs to do a PowerPoint presentation and look up information so he can write the report. He has to just sit there with a pencil and a paper. If you can do your work with a pencil and paper, you're golden. Otherwise, not so much. Or you can go sit in the lobby for 2 hours where there's nobody watching you. And you can do anything with anything, any computer, any phone, you can do whatever. Oh, and you will also remember that I was also against the 4-day school week because my major concern was security and keeping the kids safe. My child called me, wanted to know if he could walk home because he thought that was a good idea. And when I talked to the secretary, she said, yeah, you can walk out anytime and they wouldn't have any way to trace that. I live 4 miles from town. I don't think walking is a good idea. I'm really glad you called me, but to a 12-year-old, walking 4 miles home seemed like a viable idea on the highway with all the crime and everything else. So did you know we have a problem? Did you know that that was already a concern of many people in the district? Did you know that when your child is requested to come in, you get this message? Hello, this is Chrissy Herger from LFL Elementary. Your learner has been selected to come attend Friday school. Please call the school and let them know, which is a great message, by the way. She has a lovely voice. Did you know that the term learner is on the DEI agenda? That we were called conspiracy theorists for bringing up. And that we were told that we were making things up and had no proof that these things were happening. See, the word learner is used deliberately so that they can move goalposts. That's their phrase, that's their terminology, learner. See, I don't have a learner, I have a student, I have a people, and I have a child. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now move down to letter F, recommended actions on the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that any board member wishes to hold this evening? With that, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented this evening? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented this evening, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. We will now move down to number 2, old business, letter A. Consider approval of proposed revision to district policy 5137, health and wellness, as presented on introduction and first reading. The recommendation is to approve the proposed revisions to district policy 5137, health and wellness, as presented on second and final reading. Do I have a motion?
The second reading. That's fine, that was my bad. I move to approve the second and final reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the proposed revision to district policy 5137, health and wellness, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Number 3, new business. Letter A, consider approval of offering a contract to Ryan Kramer as superintendent of Goshen County School District number 1. Recommendation is to approve offering a contract to Mr. Kramer for the 2024-25 and 25-26 school years. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? So I just want to bring up one thing really quick. In speaking with our attorney, the new contract, the common practices for the new contract to supersede the old contract. So just wanted to point that out for clarification. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving, offering a contract to Ryan Kramer as superintendent of Goshen County School District for the 24-25 and 25-26 school years, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter B, consider acceptance of mid-year teacher resignation. The recommendation is to accept the resignation submitted by Southeast High School halftime business education teacher Craig Leathead, effective January 10th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, do I understand that the reason this is happening like mid-semester, what have you, is because the new AD is qualified to teach his courses?
That's correct. That is one of the opportunities that this situation arose. If there be any further clarification, I'd be glad to go into executive session and explain anything related to the employee, if there's anything that anyone would have any questions over.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring up something, but.
No, you were perfectly phrased it just fine. No, and I always want to give that offering just in case any other would have any other additional questions. I know, yeah, you're perfect on it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of accepting a mid-year teacher resignation of Craig Leaphead, effective January 10th, 2024, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter C, consider acceptance of additional certified staff resignations. The recommendation is to accept the resignation submitted by Lincoln Elementary Title I teacher Katie Fabricus and Torrington Middle School math teacher Tony Scusa, both effective at the end of the 23-24 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor of accepting the resignations submitted by Lingle Elementary Title I teacher Katie Fabricus and Torrington Middle School math teacher Tony Scusa at the end of the 23-24 school year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. And
You could have combined that. We'll just go with that.
yeah,
We'll go with that as the next.
okay. I will go to the other letter C, is consider acceptance of certified staff resignation submitted. The recommendation is to accept the resignation submitted by Southeast Schools Technology Education Woods teacher Mark Bullington, Southeast Schools English teacher Jessica Hooper, Southeast Agricultural Education teacher Jay Clapper, effective at the end of the 23-24 school year. Do I have a motion?
Sadly, I was so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of accepting the resignations of Technology Education Woods teacher Mark Bullington, Southeast Schools English teacher Jessica Hooper, and Southeast Schools Agricultural Education teacher Jay Clapper, effective at the end of the 23-24 school year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter D, consider approval of offering a contract for Southeast Interim Activity Director, Dean of Students, and Business Education Teacher for the remainder of the 23-24 school year. The recommendation is to approve offering a prorated contract to Glenn Koski as an interim half-time Dean of Students and half-time Business Education Teacher at Southeast Schools for the remainder of the 23-24 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
How long does he have to complete his WAMC certification?
So what we wait for is as long as all the materials and the background checks have been completed and that process has started, what they will allow us to do is once they've received everything, then he can start filling in as a teacher and he is certified in state one. One of the things we have to be very careful of is if we were to ever have a teacher who was not certified, the funding model follows that exact way, and we would not be able to utilize the funding from the state in order to pay that employee. And so it varies on the time frame, but it is really around that background check is what we're waiting on right now.
So how does that impact the business class that I assume has started already at Southeast?
And so we're still having those courses and everything's in place, and then he will come in as a permanent person in that position.
Who's currently teaching that at Leap Head Stuff?
I believe it is, I think, check with Mr. Williams on that for sure.
Not just curious.
No, you're good. I can have that answer here momentarily for you.
Thank you.
He's at a basketball game.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving offering a contract to Southeast Interim Activity Director, Dean of Students, and Business Education Teacher for the remainder of the 23-24 school year to Glenn Koski, pending Wyoming certification for the 23-24 school year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter E, consider approval of purchase exceeding $5,000 for the purchase of a metal lathe for Southeast Schools. The recommendation is to approve the purchase of a replacement metal lathe from Airgas in the total amount of $11,760.43, funded through insurance proceeds. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
How much more insurance proceeds do we have left to pay off?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, this is the last item.
Thank you.
Once, this is received, we'll be able to wrap up and, be done with it.
Fantastic, thank you.
And currently, I'm just gonna insert an answer to your previous question because Mr. Williams was on and he sent me a text in the middle of it.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Mr. Leathead is still serving in that capacity, and teaching that position and is willing to serve in that capacity until Mr. Koski, is, on full time.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the purchase of a metal lathe in the amount of $11,760.43, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Okay, letter F, consider approval of updated Goshen High School District Number 1 Smart Start Plan as required for program compliance. The recommendation is to approve the final updated Smart Start Plan to meet federal ESSER compliance requirements of review every 6 months in order to maintain and receive funding. This is the final review as ESSER funding will end on September 30th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So moves.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the updated Goshen County School District Number 1 Smart Start Plan as required for program compliance, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter G, consider approval of purchase exceeding $5,000 for the purchase of replacement mowers. The recommendation is to approve the purchase of 2 new Hustler mowers in the amount of $26,000 each, plus trade-in allowances for the 2019 mower and a 2020 mower in the amount of $15,000 each for a total purchase of $22,998. This is funded through the general fund. Do I have a motion?
So moves.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Are we purchasing those locally or?
The, information provided in here, they're being purchased through Burton Company.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the purchase of 2 new Hustler mowers in the total purchase amount of $22,998, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter H, consider approval of hiring a Wyoming Retirement System retiree for the 23-24 school year. The recommendation is to approve hiring WRS retiree Lori Bezusko as a district bus driver for the 23-24 school year per district policy 4302, retire rehire. Do I have a motion?
I so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of hiring WRS retiree Lori Kazusko for the 23-24 school year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter I, consider approval of offering a half-time teaching contract. The recommendation is to approve offering half-time teaching contract as a business education teacher at Southeast Schools to Glenn Koski for the remainder of the 23-24 school year, pending Wyoming certification. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of offering a half-time teaching contract to Glenn Koski for the 23-24 school year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Okay, number 4 is topics for discussion. This is a time for board members to seek input from each other on timely topics. Is there anything that anybody wishes to discuss this evening?
Sure. I too share the concern about the open positions at Southeast, obviously for very selfish reasons. I wonder if it would be appropriate to create some type of a committee to meet with Mr. Williams and any of the teachers out at Southeast to discuss if anything is contributing to that or kind of what's going on, to be honest. And I would love to be on that committee.
I think that's a really good idea, and I would add to that, not solely Southeast, but any school in the district that we would have a large amount of retiring or people resigning. I think it would be good to have a committee in that role to at least look into that. So, are there any other board members that would be willing to be on that committee?
I will. I would like to see it extended to the other schools as well, though.
Anybody else? I would. So 3 or 4 would probably be. Okay. Okay. Okay, so now we have 5 people. Here's the alternate. Okay. Okay, so I guess for that committee, we have Lena, Carlos, Chris, and Sarah. That work? And Wade as the alternate.
So would it
Okay.
be appropriate for me to reach out to Mr. Williams and to coordinate that, or how should we go about that?
I think you and I can work together and coordinate that if that works all right.
Great, thank you.
Any other topics for discussion? Okay. And then future meetings, there will be a special meeting to hold a board work session on Thursday, January 8th, not 18th, not anymore, just changed.
So you'll notice, you have a copy, it would just, yeah.
Okay,
So Mr. Farmer was unavailable on the 18th. Due to some changes that came up with some openings for superintendents across the state that he's assisting with. And wondering, I know trustee Hurley, Monday nights do not work for you at all. Unfortunately, when I look out, and this is an option too for anybody, we would be beyond our February meeting for any night that does not have any conflicting extracurricular activities for you as board members, as we were looking at the calendar. So February 5th is the date that Mr. Farmer is available. We can continue that conversation, or if we would want to look beyond our board meeting in February, we can take a look at that. But I know what we've found in the past, there's always been at least one person who hasn't been available for sure, and we've kind of moved forward. But I want to hear what the board's perspective might be on that February 5th date.
I'm getting some thumbs up. Okay. I can make it.
We're talking at 6.
Correct. It's a very good conversation so far, and I know we are kind of wanting to get that as fast as possible. And I know I apologize, trustee Hurley, because I already knew when looking at that date. Actually, Lori brought it to my attention also too when we were thinking about it. But if we can kind of move forward, we certainly will have another meeting after that where we will finalize more things too. So we'll go ahead and put that down for February 5th, and we'll work on having that board work session.
Number 2, WSBA will be offering their winter board development workshops on Saturday, January 20th at the Casper Hill Garden Inn. Please let Lorraine know if you plan to attend. Number 3, the 2023 annual legislative forum hosted by WSBA and WASA will be at Little American Cheyenne, February 18th, 2024. Once again, please let Lorraine know if you plan to attend. And the next regular board meeting will be Tuesday, February 13th at 7 p.m. With that, I'll turn it over to the superintendent's report.
Okay, I'm going to get on and share my screen here. Okay. So when you look at average daily membership, I kind of color coded a little bit here. So anything in this column, these are compared to the previous month. So anything on this column in G indicates this is comparison to the previous month. If it's yellow, it had a slight decline. If there's green, it had a slight increase. In this column, this is comparatively to the year previous. And you'll notice that, so when it went from December of 23 to December of 22, this is our average daily membership. One of the biggest impacts in this column F are the grade levels that change. You'll notice there was a slight increase at LaGrange, and then slight decreases at Lingo Fort Laramie. High school, elementary had a slight increase. Middle school, slight decrease. Overall, I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom piece where we were in comparison. Last month, we were slightly down. We were also down a little bit in the comparison from the previous year. One of the things in regards to our average daily membership and that funding model that we spoke about a little bit earlier, it is over a 3-year average. So one of those things like a increase that we had from 21 to 22 helps us, but not as significantly in that. So it actually helps us over the long term because we're taking that 3-year average and taking a look at that. We're still within that really good area for the ADM, not looking at having to make any significant reductions related to ADM because of our average daily membership and where we're at. Now that also doesn't take into necessarily exact correlation to buildings, as we talked about. Some buildings have some sway in where they're going. You'll notice that we did have a significant increase in Torrington High School from 289 to 310, and that's because of that really large freshman class. We have a very small senior class, and we have a very large freshman class. And then when you look too, also, you look at this 8th grade, this was where they were at. This next year we'll have 85, but in seniors, we'll be graduating about 59. So you can see we're looking at an overall increase at Torrington High School in enrollment. So that's the enrollment piece. The other piece that I wanted to I did have a chance to kind of reference that ESSER funded staff positions. We have met with each administrator and talked about the model for their building and what that looks like, and then the discussions around those ESSER positions and where we are at with those currently. And if we wanted to have any of those positions in place, there has to be a plan moving forward. Where are we budgetarily, and where is that looking at, and what kind of questions do we need to be asking ourselves to make sure we are budget neutral as we look towards developing that budget for the next school year, and especially around salary relations too, because we'll have those conversations coming up that'll significantly impact that discussion also. The next one I had, and I want in February, Holly, Laura, and I will have an executive summary of all 3 surveys that we have that we provided out. And just to give you an idea of how those surveys were sent out, every parent received a text, phone call, and email with a link to access that survey. We had 544 parents access that survey, which is significantly higher than we had last year in relation to the survey. So we had a good number there. We had 310 staff fill out that survey, and we had 698 students fill out that survey. So in close reference to that, we had about almost 1,600 surveys completed. That's a really large number of surveys, especially if you look at the narrative amount, because each survey contained also a minimum of 3 narrative responses. We have in just the students alone, 17 pages of narrative on one question. They had 3 questions. And so that kind of tells you that we did have a little bit of writing opportunities there and an opportunity to express the opinions that they had. Now, that's where it gets a little bit more challenging in interpreting those survey results. But I did want to give you just, even though we don't have the executive summary completed, I know that there's just kind of some curiosity there on how those topics played out. And I know we'll have more information. But I kind of wanted to just share some initial interpretations, and that deals with one of the questions that we first had on, and I'm just going to go to that. And I'm not going to go to each individual survey because I just don't, it doesn't share as well without that executive summary. But I also want to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. Share. So this is the picture of the students, and 2 of the questions are exactly the same from students, staff, and parents. And that question is, how would you rate your overall experience with the 4-day school week? And in this response, 74% of our students either said they felt that it was very positive or positive that they had in regards to that. So 74%. And then overall then, between neutral, positive, and very positive, 94% of our students felt that it was either could go either way, they felt it was positive or very positive. We had 6% of our students say that it was negative or very negative. And actually, if I scroll down there, only 2% said it was very negative. Now, it takes a different turn when we talk to parents. There's a different interpretation there. Parents, out of the 544 that were certified, or that were completed, 59% felt it was very positive or positive. If we add neutral into that, 78% of parents felt either neutral, positive, or very positive. 22% either felt negative or very negative. Then on staff, 51% of our staff felt it was very positive or positive. When we add neutral into that, new positive and very positive, 76% were either neutral, positive, or very positive. 25% fall into the negative or very negative. Then the other question that I wanted to kind of highlight in this quick overview results is, based on your experience, do you believe the 4-day school week should be maintained as it is or modified with changes? 76% of our students felt it should be maintained as is. 24% feel that it should be modified. Parents, 52% of our parents felt it should be maintained as is. 48% felt it should be modified. Staff, 27% of our staff felt that it should be maintained as is, and 73% felt it should be modified. So as you can tell with those results, we've had a lot of suggestions and a lot of different suggestions ranging in what those next steps should be. So we developed, as part of that conversation, is the calendar committee, who will kind of talk a lot about this. Trustee Hurley and Trustee Cushman are representatives for the board on that. We have our meeting coming up January 16th. We have 23 members on that committee. And one of our first processes in that committee is to analyze this data a little bit more, taking specific looks at the narratives and classifying where a lot of that overall feeling is and what are some suggestions. Probably the biggest suggestion that I'm seeing as a theme is to really take a look at those Fridays and how they're structured. And right now, the priority that was centered around the building of this last calendar was to reduce the number of classes missed for activities. It has more than accomplished that, but does it balance out what we're trying to do also for other grade levels? And that's the question that that committee is going to have to work on and tackle through the narrative responses and also through the responses of that survey, and kind of give a direction and then make a recommendation to the board on a calendar for the next school year. Very interesting data. The narratives are probably the most difficult to kind of get through because there's just a lot of information being thrown at you when you kind of look at that. It can be quite overwhelming in taking a look at that. But like I said, Holly, Laura, and I will have an executive summary for the February meeting, and then we'll also be working on that summary with that calendar committee and coming up. That calendar committee is made up of representatives from every school in the district, and also includes parents and their roles in each building in the district also.
Is this still the same form that we used the last time where we could actually access this information?
I can get you access to it, yes. It's the exact same program that we had before. Yep, that's at
I just
Waltrix.
We need to refresh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would be more than happy to provide that. Yeah, there's a lot of information too. And I'm learning new things on it every day in regards to how to break it down. The interesting parts are breaking it down per building also, and seeing where there's a lot of comfort in there, and where there needs to be some changes. And that's part of this process. We knew with making this significant of a change, there's some fine tuning to be done. I think it will always too, when any individual has any concerns, to talk to their principal at their building and making sure that our concerns are being addressed. I think we definitely have an opportunity to hear and address many of those things. The biggest challenge that we will have, and I've had this for 23 years of building a calendar. I personally have never walked away from a calendar and gotten everything I wanted on the calendar, ever, in 25 years. There is a lot of compromise in that process, and no matter what, and we can see from the narratives, we're never going to be able to accommodate everyone's desire on a calendar. That's everything I have.
Yep. I had some, it's possible, but make a motion in our executive section for personnel.
Yeah, we certainly can.
Second.
Yes.
All those in favor of going into executive session for personnel, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
we can have a discussion within related to the superintendent's, report, because before adjournment, and there's a desire from the board to have. I'll let you actually fill in from where that is of what the desire for the board is.
So, the board would like to hold a special meeting, and have, an executive session for personnel. We just need to discuss a time that works for the board to get together and meet and have that executive session. We have to do 24 hours notice, Lorraine, how quickly can we do that?
Well, you guys tell me when and I can get it advertised. It may not make a paper, but we make our best faith effort to do those things. Online, email, notified KJOS, Telegram.
So what is our prerogative as a board? What are we thinking?
What if we set it in for the meeting, this Thursday?
That 18th. I am available. Cause yeah, we were supposed to have the 18th. That would be next Thursday.
Sorry, I was thinking.
No, you're okay, you're okay. I do have a commitment this Thursday earlier. And up until about. 7 o'clock. I could do anytime after 7. I think you could probably do about 8:30. No, well, no, we'd be okay, wouldn't we? Because varsity is gonna be,
I like late time,
okay, or if that works, yeah, if we're all available on 18th and that's soon enough. I mean, I guess that's the board members to determine too. I am available that evening.
Is everybody okay with that? Or would we like to address it sooner?
personally.
I would agree with that.
I mean, it makes it more difficult to schedule, but I think sooner.
So.
I got a random question. Does executive session all have to be in person or has it ever been on Zoom?
I think it has to be in person legally.
It does
Is
not
that
have to
correct?
be.
It
I'm
doesn't?
not providing legal advice.
It does not have to be in person.
It's
That seems like a slippery slope to me.
you use a secure, Zoom link.
And in our board governance, we have the opportunity, even and then in open session to participate via Zoom.
So is it the board's desire to address it this week? Preferred, okay. So that leaves us, Thursday or Friday, basically. Friday evening, I will be gone. What about Thursday, 6 o'clock?
I would have commitment till 7.
Okay. Thursday, 7 o'clock. Work for everybody? No, not Justin? You won't be able to make it? Is there another time that would work better?
Friday's better.
So I can move stuff. We can do Friday at 6 o'clock too. I'm fine with that too.
I can't try. Have those in council.
Okay. Thursday at 6 o'clock it is. 7 o'clock, I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good.
Thursday, 7 o'clock. We will have a meeting. Anything else to come before the board this evening? With that, we will be adjourned.